everyone. Welcome to People Serve. We are Senless today, so our guest Sasha is actually going to play the intro for us.
I'll give it a try. Maple syrup.
Hey,
I'm no
hey
singer
everyone. So, unfortunately, we are having some technical issues at the moment at the Sen end of things. So you're stuck with just me and just our guest for the evening. Sasha, pronounce your surname for me.
Jelten.
It is just straight up Jelten. I love that.
Straight up
Cool.
Jelten.
I just had this horrible feeling that it was going to be like Chaltin or something, and I was just going to do terrible things to it. So, alrighty. Now, the reason that we have a Sasha on the show is because Sasha and I, to a certain extent, but me mainly being backing vocals, help organize the Playtest PDX group. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about how that group came about. What we have both learned, and particularly what Sasha has learned about running a playtesting group and getting it from basically concept to something that is happening all the time. But first of all, what we'd like to do, Sasha, is find out a little bit about you. So at the moment, I would like everyone watching, please, to picture that there is a little card down the bottom and it says origin story. Sasha, off you go. Tell us, how did game design happen to you?
How did game design happen to me? Well, honestly, I've always enjoyed games. It was something that I definitely I grew up playing like Scrabble and backgammon and all the sort of classics. But I honestly I didn't have a whole lot of positive like gaming energy from my parents. It was something that I always sort of like hid a little bit.
Oh,
I
you're a
was always
secret
really
gamer.
yeah. I was sort of a closeted gamer in a sense where I would like sort of I wouldn't really present myself as being a gamer to most people, but anyone that like really knew me knew I was really into games. Um, and it wasn't until like I don't know, I think it was 2018 or 19 when my
When you
friends
came out?
yeah when my friends Evan and Ryan, Evan Halpert and Ryan Mock, who are the designers of After the Empire. I was friends with Ryan because he owned a game store, and seeing their sort of journey of getting their game After the Empire signed, and seeing that sort of successful Kickstarter and that whole sort of process just sort of unlocked this concept of I could just make a game. Like I there's no like I don't have to be at a certain point in my life or have done a certain things in order to be someone that could design a game. And that's what sort of unlocked it for me mentally. And then with my buddy Eric Hall, we
Hi, Eric, if
started.
you're watching.
Eric's been a good friend for since high school, and we definitely always gamed together. Um,
So that's
and
only like a couple of years ago anyway for you, isn't
well, not quite, but yeah, I get your point.
it?
um, uh, but yeah, I started. We were both working at a bakery, and we would just sort of verbally brainstorm ideas for games, and then it was just a matter of sort of meeting up weekly and starting to like create a prototype and start sort of testing things, and that's what sort of brought me into actual doing game design. There's lots of things in between that, and then there's been a lot of things since then, but that was sort of my uh, initial journey, or what sort of broke
That's
me
what brought
into
you
it.
here, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Just going to take a quick sec to say hi to
yeah.
George, who's joining
Hello,
us from
George.
downstairs. Wondering if there's anyone else out there in Maple Syrup Land who can see us. Please chime in, say hi. Be great to know that we are actually live, and that people can see us and ask us questions if you want to. We'd love to hear from you. So, Sasha, I know that you mentioned Eric. I know that the two of you have designed a game together. How about you give us the quick overview of that game and a little bit about, where it's up to at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So um, there are a couple games that I work on with Eric, but the one that is the furthest along that I feel the sort of most proud of in its sort of development, and that I sort of poured myself the most into the last year or so, is a game called Dovecote, um, which is a game about pigeon keeping. A dovecote is a structure that people keep pigeons in. And this game just sort of essentially explores that theme a little bit of pigeon keeping. Players will sort of breed their pigeons to make more pigeons. You'll have pigeons that do uh, carrier pigeons. You'll sell pigeons. There are contests that you can win using your pigeons. Um, and I would probably be scolded if I didn't mention that there is a wonderful thing in the game called the duck pond, which is one of the several milestones in the game. And I know Kat loves the duck pond.
I
So
think it's just really important to have something in this kind of milestone game that means nothing. I've played a few of these, so, what we mean by a milestone game, hi, Amy, by the way, lovely to see you.
I mean,
Um, a milestone game is the kind of game where the end condition is that a certain number of these milestones have been met. So in the case of Dovecote, one of those includes a certain number of players, depending on player count, having purchased a very beautiful duck pond. And for me, that was just so ridiculous. I got obsessed with the duck pond.
it was something that came into the design pretty early on,
Mhm.
and we did love the sort of concept of having this milestone that it was. Since these milestones are first come first serve, you don't want to be the last person to get a duck pond because then
Because
you
then
don't
it
get
doesn't
anything
matter.
from it. Um, but it doesn't actually do anything specific. And so it was a sort of interesting having to decide, like, this doesn't actually really help me progress faster through the game, but it is giving me something that actually helps me win the game. So yeah, it was always a fun thing. And
It's
yeah.
nice to have something where you have this decision where you have resources to use and you can use them purely towards the end condition for like that's it, or you can use them towards building more resources, and I think that's one of the reasons I really enjoy that game, and I've come back and played it over and over as it's moved through different iterations during, and this is the main topic of today, playtesting. So what we're actually here to talk about is Sasha's sudden rise from, hanging around being one of the people testing games to being the leader of Playtest PDX, the face, the organizer, the most important Playtest PDXer. What title have you in fact chosen for yourself, Sasha?
uh, I usually just say founder. I don't know. I don't.
Founder. I mean,
I
it could be CEO, it could be director,
oh I
founder.
this is a project that I've like been really happy to sort of get going, but it's really, I feel like I'm just a a piece of it because I have so many awesome people that are really helping me make it sweet, and
But the
it has
the
been sweet.
way that you get these things to work is you need to have a person who's willing to do the boring parts, who's willing to do the repetitive parts, who's willing to keep things going.
Mhm.
It's I often use the image with George and myself with a veggie garden. So I will very happily plan a veggie garden. I will research all of the different plants that should go in there and companion planting and the best ways to put them in and how much we're likely to consume of each one and how much each plant is likely to bear when we're looking at, all those sorts of things. I'll do all of that. I'm very excited about that. And I'll do the big bang of installing it. And then I am done. And weeding, watering, I don't really care anymore. I did the fun part and I'm over it. And every now and then I'll take photos and post them on social media. And that's pretty much what I do for Playtest PDX. But what do you do, Sasha?
What do I do?
Mm.
I definitely brainstorm ideas for events. Primarily right now, I'm just running 2 monthly events. So,
So 2
we have
events per month.
yeah, 2 events
Yeah.
per month. And that is our normal sort of just playtesting meetup thing. But then I've been doing a game jam, a monthly game jam as well, as a way to not only not only do I just love game jams, and I love introducing people to the concept of game jams, but I think it's also a really cool tool for bridging the gap between people that are passively interested in games and game design and people that are like actively pursuing game design. It's I think a really sort of approachable way to just sort of start dipping your toes in it, and it's
And
also people walking by it get sort of hooked into it a little bit.
yeah, I mean, it's gamification of game design in a way.
Mhm.
Like, it's the obvious onboarding to get more people into design, and of course, everyone, I think, would agree that the more people we have interested in game design, the more people we have trying it out, the more value we will get for game design because more people understand it. Therefore, more people are able to value when a game design works because they understand how much work it actually is. Like, oh, I tried to
Mhm.
make a game and it wasn't as easy as I thought, but at the same time, it was a lot of fun. I'm interested, all those sorts of things. So let's start off by talking about the playtest sessions themselves. So, one of the things that makes this kind of group successful is having something regular where they know even if they can't make this month, they can go to the next month and all those sorts of things. So, tell us how you managed to organize that. Like, what did you do in your head to get that together? What strings did you pull? What connections did you use?
Well, I mean, I definitely know the value of sort of having a consistent routine or a consistent thing that people don't necessarily need to know, uh, have the event dates in front of them, as long as they sort of understand the concept of roughly when it is, they can sort of figure it out. I'm talking sort of vague terms, but I host lots of game nights, and I've just found that having a sort of regular thing uh, just enables that thing to slowly sort of grow and get bigger because yeah, not everyone can come to every single one, but if it's a consistent thing and then people see things like, oh, I saw that that happened and oh, I wish I could have made it, then that just gives them a little extra push to sort of seek out the next one. And so yeah, I definitely having a good place for it, which again, having good people around me, uh,
Thanks, Evan. I know you're
Vince,
not watching
Evan,
right now, but if you ever get
Evans,
round to watching this one, thanks, Evan.
Evans owns a cafe, and so sort of after hours, we're able to host the meetup there. If we didn't have Evans cafe, I would probably be developing my relationships with the different game stores around town. I think game stores are really a great place to host game design things like this. Um, I've been developing relationships via the game jams, which has been fantastic. And yeah, so I would very likely be trying to utilize a local game store or multiple local game stores for playtest events if we didn't have this awesome resource. But yeah.
So, thinking about that, so originally the idea for this came from we were at PAX West and we were chatting to. So, I thought, oh, how come there's no Unpub at PAX West? And I had a chat to the people at Unpub, and they had a chat to the people at PAX, and we did an Unpub at PAX West. So I was officially running it, and a bunch of my wonderful friends volunteered to help out so that I wasn't trying to do it on my own. And Sasha was one of those. And that's how we met Bo from Playtest Northwest. And I had vaguely heard of Playtest Northwest, but I didn't realize that it was actually the same kind of group. And I thought, oh, how come there's no Playtest Northwest branch in Portland? And it turns out that Playtest Northwest is actually just Seattle. So we all had a chat about, how playtesting works and how it's often just little tiny groups that don't really talk to each other. And how could we leverage Unpub and Playtest Northwest and get all of these Portland people who often show up going, I wish there was something in Portland, to be able to work together. And it turns out there are quite a few playtesting groups in Portland.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. That was a big sort of goal with talking to Bo at Playtest Northwest, was creating a sort of communication.
Network?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically sort of connecting all of these different little groups together and sort of creating something that when people search for a thing like this online, there's like something that they can find that then they can like find other smaller ones maybe that are in their specific neighborhood or whatever from that. But there wasn't really something in Portland that was sort of a catch-all. There were a couple of different little groups that were all doing sort of interesting things, and that was actually a big thing that I was focusing on at the beginning of Playtest PDX, was just trying to reach out to each of these groups and then going to their events and just sort of getting connected and trying to get some cross pollination going. Just getting people to sort of check out different neighborhoods and check out the different events that are going around Portland that they maybe didn't know about yet. Just sort of spreading awareness of all the different resources and great designers that are in the Portland area, and just sort of growing the community just by the cross pollinating.
Because
Um,
that's certainly a big thing with playtesting is if you're always playtesting with the same group, what you end up with is the same kind of feedback all the way through. And people get used to something and they start to see a game a particular way. And then you put it in front of a new group and you can often get a real shock because you've been working with only these same four people or whatever for a year or more. And suddenly someone goes, oh, but what does this mean? And you go, you're right. We all just assumed that we understood how that worked and,
mhm,
all those sorts of things. So the sooner you get your game in front of different people, the sooner you can address that and the less likely you are to be in the point. So, I mean, I've gone completely the other way. I've never had a regular playtesting group. I've always gone to different groups. So for me to have a regular group is like, oh wow, how cool! I get to see these games evolve,
mhm.
which is never something I've experienced. So I'm super excited about being part of it, and very keen to see all of these other groups get connected and meet other people and meet their games. So tell us a little bit about the other groups in the Portland area that you've connected with.
Well, there's a couple of small ones. The main one that I think we have the most sort of cross pollination with at the moment is I want to get the name correct. Let me just pull it up really quick. It is the Stumptown Game Crafters,
Right.
and
And they're in Tigard. Yes.
they're in Tigard.
Whoops, Tigard.
Or yeah,
Still learning how to
I don't
say
know
the
that I'm
names of
correct,
places here.
so don't just assume that I'm correct. Um, but yeah, they are a great meetup group. They have some really awesome prototyping resources. They essentially have like this uh, space that has a bunch of 3D printers and vacuum forming machines
Oh,
and a
neat.
wood shop, and
So it's
they
a
have
makerspace.
yeah, it's definitely, it has a maker space kind of feel to it. The person that runs it, that it's his space, and it's like a really sweet setup. They sort of alternate. They have weekly meetups, and they alternate between having it be playtesting and it being sort of prototyping slash game night. Um,
Oh, that's
and
super cool.
yeah, no, it's a great meetup. It's lots of great people. They uh, sort of run their playtest at nights slightly different, uh, probably a little bit more organized as far as like time frame. Like they have like specific times that this slot is happening from this point to this point. Who's here? Here's the signups, which is definitely not a bad thing at all. I think I've enjoyed ours being a little bit loose because um, different games have sort of different play lengths, but the way that they were doing it can enable a more sort of switching tables and having people sort of move to different spots rather than being in the same sort of couple group of people that night. But
I'm
yeah,
guessing that they've also got a lot more people
um,
if they need to book slots, or is it
uh,
just to make sure people show
it's
up?
I think they've had a good amount of people at certain points, but they'll just do that regardless of the
Okay.
number of people. Um, there's yeah, the times that I've gone, it will sort of fluctuate between like I would say between like 8 and 16 people.
Okay.
So it's definitely a good number of people, but it's not like that much different than our Playtest PDX meetups. So
And that's Monday nights, right?
yeah, Monday nights.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
No, definitely
And
one to check out for anyone that's in the Portland area.
then there's also, Playtest Corvallis, which
Yes.
isn't Portland per se, but we see them up here a lot,
Yeah.
and they're actually right now, they're organizing something at Guardian Games, and I was like, "In Portland at Guardian Games, I'm sorry, I have this show where we will be talking about exactly what you're doing."
Oh,
Um
is it in Portland? Because there is a Garden Games in Corvallis.
Oh, no, that's right, it's at their Guardian Games, you're right, it's in
Yeah.
Corvallis.
I
Yes,
I
you'll
grew up
get
in
it.
Corvallis, and that Garden Games is actually pretty new, and
Yes.
it's a good sized space. It's nice.
Yeah, I knew it was the new I saw it open, but then I just saw Guardian Games on it today, and I was like, "Oh, you're in Portland, I could go." No, I'm not going to Corvallis, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what is that, like 2 hours each way or something?
It's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Adam, the person who runs Playtest Corvallis, he comes up to our Playtest PDX events all the time.
Yeah.
I definitely, I, I wish I could support Playtest Corvallis as much as he supports Playtest PDX.
Yes.
I've made it to an event, but that's partially because my parents live in Corvallis, so it's like
I mean,
when I'm
that
visiting them,
really
I can
helps. So I would love to go to Corvallis because I don't think
great little
I've
spot.
been past Corvallis. I haven't actually been to Corvallis yet. But, yes, we will make that effort. The problem is that we have a dog who is old and needs toilet breaks about every 3 or 4 hours. So if it's like 2 hours to get there, then we have to turn straight back around to let her out.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to make sure that we arrange something so that we can actually come.
No,
Um,
it's a nice little college town. Amy was just saying that the Corvallis Garden Games is gorgeous, and yeah, I agree. When I was down there, I saw your games, Amy, and I was thought of you.
Yay.
Um, but yeah, no, it's a great resource. Corvallis actually has for the population, it has a lot of game stores. I was honestly
Yeah.
surprised that the Garden Games opened just because I knew that Corvallis already had like 4 game stores
Oh, I didn't
for
realize
like
it had that many. We looked at it because we went down, the coast, last year
mhm,
to show them BubbleNet and, Intertidal.
mhm,
And Intertidal Survival. Sorry, I have to make sure I give it the whole name because there's another game called Intertidal. And one of the places we were considering going and doing a game night to sort of show the game was in Corvallis, and there were so many game stores there. I was like, "Whoa,
yeah,
that's several." So I can see why having a playtesting community there makes a lot of sense. Um, Now let's segue to talking about exploring the game stores in the area
oh
and
yeah.
having game jams at them. So, Sasha, tell us about your first game jam. What was the
My
experience like for you?
my first game jam.
Yeah.
So my first game jam, I think like first official game jam, I think was at uh, Origins last year. I think.
The Unpub one.
Yeah, the Unpub.
Yeah.
I had sort of thinking back earlier. I did something sort of in the vein of a game jam before, but it was not like structured at all. I just remember with Eric, I was like, "What if we like uh, smash 2 different mechanics together? What would that game be?" And that was just like a little exercise to get ideas flowing. But my first actual sort of structured game jam was that one at Origins, the Unpub one,
Mhm.
and I immediately loved it. I always love things like that. As creative challenges are something that I've always been sort of drawn to, and I think are really valuable, not just for my own growth, but also for getting people interested or involved in something. Um,
And
but
you're a musician, so
yeah,
you understand the concept of a jam session and all of those sorts of things, right? Which is where the concept of game jam comes from initially.
yeah,
It's the same vibe.
no,
So,
no,
like,
no doubt.
in a music jam a game bleh, blah, 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 jam session, what happens? Tell me what it's like as a musician to just have a jam. What does that feel like?
I mean, it is, yeah, it is a lot of what a game jam is like in the sense that someone everyone will just sort of like maybe do a little something, and then one person's thing that they're doing, other people will be sort of like, oh, that's sort of cool, not verbally saying it, but just like
They just sort of hook
then
into
just
it
sort
and
of
start.
transitioning what they're doing to sort of uh, work with what that other person is doing, and then it will sort of grow from that. And then, depending on the sort of style that people are playing, it will sort of have different people sort of taking a sort of uh, step forward in what they're sort of adding or improvising, while the other players or other players, it is other
Well,
players,
players, yeah, other musicians, yeah.
are are just sort of supporting that, sort of filling it out and adding a strong base for the sort of improvising that is happening on top, which is not dissimilar from
Mm,
what a sort of collaborative game jam is like, where there will be everyone sort of has ideas, then one person's idea will sort of like have a little
people start
bit of
going,
strength that people are like on and sort of building off of that one and sort of building it up. And other people are just sort of adding little tweaks to this person that is sort of driving the idea forward. And then they'll sort of pass it off to someone else that will sort of drive it forward a little bit more, while other people are just sort of adding onto it. So it is honestly, um, that's what I love about creative stuff in general is uh,
mm.
a lot of the concepts are so transferable, and just being creative in some way is a way to improve your ability to be creative in all of the different ways. So,
Well,
yeah.
something that's really interesting about creativity is the use of constraints. So, in a lot of cases, if someone just said, play a song, the most likely thing that you're going to do is play something you already know. But if someone says, create a song, you're just going to sit there going, um, but then if they say, create a song and the genre is jazz, I have a structure.
Mhm.
Okay. And now create a song in the jazz genre, but it's about string cheese. Okay, off you go. You know, you've got enough now. You've got enough bits, and from that, you can go and be creative. And for me, that's the kind of thing that I find really useful because if someone just says, create a song, I'm like,
Being
don't
given
know.
bounds can help a lot
Exactly.
with
Because they're prompts, but they also sort of tell you where to stop, right? Because you're not going to make a death metal song if you've been given jazz initially, but it
Mhm.
could end up there, and that would be
Yeah.
amazing because if you got like a jazz rooted death metal song, that could be really cool, especially about string cheese.
No, and the awesome thing about having the sort of creative balance in a challenge is figuring out ways to sort of like bend how it how the bounds work. Like, you have this box and you're sort of told to do something that's in this box, and you like figure out a way to sort of not quite be in that box. And that is
Yep.
like so much fun and really rewarding. And there's certainly times where you don't have to push boundaries. You can just sort of work in this box. It is definitely, but the number of times that I've uh, told myself, yeah, I don't know, I'm just going to sort of stay in this box, and then I'm working in this box, and all of a sudden I start getting outside of this box and like adding all this weird stuff, and it becomes like something really cool. Just like starting to work in this box is the sort of jumping off point for, I don't know, so many ideas. But
And the thing that I find really interesting, so I've sort of coming from a creative writing background,
mhm,
I'm very good at writing prompts and coming up with ideas to get people started in ways that don't tell them too much about what to do. So, a really good word example of that is if I said fly,
mhm,
well, you might think to fly, you might think a fly, you might think a fly like a blowfly, you might think a fly like a zip, you might think a fly like, I mean, there are, like a fishing fly.
mhm,
You've already got like instantly all these different ways to go. But if someone had changed that prompt and they'd said to fly, so making a good prompt is a big deal, like being
mhm,
able to do that. So attending a game jam is awesome. Running a game jam is awesome, but it's a different animal. So what you've been doing, Sasha, is you've been doing monthly game jams, which allow you to sort of form those relationships with local game stores as well, which
mhm.
is super cool. But on top of that, this month you set yourself a bit of a challenge. So tell us about
Love
your
a
challenge, Sasha.
love a good challenge. So yeah, this month, so coming from a music background, I've done Januaries before. The concept of
Ah,
a January is every day in the month of January you do a jam, and
that's where the
so
idea came from.
yeah,
Okay.
I would say last year was the year that I sort of made this conscious decision that I was like going to sort of transition from music being my main sort of creative identity to board games being my main creative identity, and as a result, this I decided that I wanted to try and do a game jam every day in January, and so like I said, I've done this before with music. I knew that there was extra challenges with it being board games, but at the same time, I love doing it so much, and my schedule was not going to be too busy to prevent me from potentially trying to do it. That I decided to take it on, and part of it was I wanted to record a video of the game jam uh, every day. Uh, Not only the sort of the physical part, as I sort of do a time lapse of the physical part of making or designing a game from scratch, but I also uh, the sort of main thing is I talk and explain the sort of game in the video, and so the sort of idea was mainly just for myself to uh, challenge myself to do this because, like I said, I just love creative challenges. I really feel like I get a lot out of it, not just enjoyment, but also just improvement. Um,
Yes.
but I also really love doing challenges like this to sort of get other people excited or pumped to create. I've For many years I've run several different sort of challenge groups
Okay.
where I have some either sometimes it'll be prompt oriented, other times it'll just be like time oriented, like each week send me something that you created. I did something called the weekly challenge for a while where uh, it doesn't matter what medium, you could be drawing, you can be sculpting, you can be painting, whatever, and everyone would just send me something that they made that week, and then we'd share it all in this one feed, and it would just be a way to sort of motivate each other to not only keep working on our own creative stuff, but also get sort of ideas of mediums that we've not experimented with. And so, yeah, I love how creating something and having a challenge can sort of inspire other people to want to create and make things. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
I
so,
love that.
one of the things I found really interesting about this was when Sasha and I were first talking about Playtest PDX way back in the day, like 6 months ago. Sasha was like, "Oh, but reels. Oh, I don't know if I can do that." Oh, and I was like, "Sure, you can. You know how to do this. It's not going to be that hard." And now Sasha is making a reel every day with a split screen and a voiceover and all of the things that you thought that you couldn't do. There's a time lapse in the bottom half of him, and every single, I'm looking at one of them now. The bottom half has a time lapse of like him making the game, which is super cool and is a really cool concept to have in every single one of the videos. And then in the top half, he's actually explaining the game. And at the start of each one, there are 3 spinning wheels that spin. So the basic concept for the unpub style is that you have a theme, you have a must, and a must not. And generally, what we do at unpub is we roll a die, generally a d6, and that d6 will determine which of the prompts applies to this particular one. But there's always this out, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm stumped, I can't get anything out of it, where you can personally re-roll if you wish. Or you can use the prompts plus any others that you like from the prompt list. So that's sort of, it's a way out of the constraints, but it's also a way to kind of add some stuff. So if there was something you really wanted to include, you can.
Mhm.
Um, and what Sasha's done, and he's taken that to like these big wheels. How many options on each wheel, Sasha? Is it like 25, 30?
Well, each time I do one, I take it off the list. I think and I've also added some since I started. I think at the highest point, one of them had 28. But yeah, in the lowest point, one of them had 6, and I had to like ask people to give me some more.
Feed some
Um,
more in, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, so it's sort of they are these sort of big wheels that will sort of change up, and yeah,
And so I'm scrolling down and I'm looking at them. Now you're up to day 24 of these, which luckily matches today being the 24th here in the USA. In the past, sorry if you're watching from the future. Um, Hi, New Zealand. Um, if anyone's actually watching us. And I'm looking at them all and I'm seeing like day after day after day after day of you coming up with ideas. How long does this take you each time?
Oh, uh, oftentimes I spend more time on it than I set out to. Uh, there's definitely days where I am able to sort of get the whole process done in what I consider to be a reasonable amount of time. Um,
What was the time you set yourself for this to take, for each one to take?
I told myself that I wanted to spend an hour, maybe an hour and a half, doing the jam,
Hmm.
and then uh,
And then 5 minutes doing the video afterwards, right? That's how long it takes, right? Right.
yeah, I came into this knowing that the video making was going to be the hardest part for me to maintain. Uh,
It's getting faster though, I bet, right?
I've certainly developed all sorts of workflow things to improve it, but it's definitely something that I think I could do daily game jams for a while if I didn't have to make videos on them. Uh, the sort of stress or the sort of anxiety of doing the daily challenge is almost entirely
The
the video
video.
making side of it,
Yeah.
which I've learned a lot, and I'm very appreciative for doing this challenge and how it sort of helped me get better at these things. But it is something that is it
It's
definitely takes
extra
time.
pressure. It's extra pressure. I hear you on that because I've been trying to find which of the, because I know like for Drea Inc. and for Maple Syrup, I need to be producing content to keep people interested, to make sure that we stay in their feed, all of those sorts of things. And we have so many different channels to cover across across both brands. And so I'm trying to make these videos and thinking, oh, okay, I need to get them on YouTube. So I have to film this way, but I also need to have them for reels and everything else this way. But I have to remember that they have to be able to fit into Instagram reels. So they can only be 90 seconds. But TikTok allows me to have longer ones if I want to put them on there.
Yep.
But then I have to understand when they'll be cut when I move them across. So I have to actually make a 90-second one and then add bonus if I want it to be longer than that. So maybe I'll just keep it at 90 seconds. Okay, so
No, I was definitely learning all of this. So I had never made a TikTok video before the 1st of January, and I made. But I'm doing all of the editing and sort of the initial creation of my videos on TikTok. So it was definitely a lot of sort of learning with where the sort of time constraints are for the different platforms, because yeah, there's also the Facebook Reels have different constraints than the Instagram Reels, and there's like
Yeah.
some things
At
that get
least the
cropped
aspect
really
ratio doesn't
differently.
change too much
Yeah,
because
it's the same
that's
aspect ratio, but sometimes like the embedded videos in like on PC is
they
on
show
Facebook is
you get
different, and yeah,
cutting over the
there's all
yeah.
sorts of little things that I've gradually been
Oh,
learning, and like each of the different things have their buttons in different spots. So if you like have text on the screen, you don't like want the buttons covering the text, and all these little
yep.
things that have been all part of the learning process as well. Um, but ultimately, uh, I've
You've been
gotten so
doing it
many
though.
awesome people uh, sort of showing support and expressing interest in starting to mess around with things on their own. And our Playtest PDX Discord server has been great at having. I have several people that have been coming up with their own daily game jams ideas or brainstorms for each day, which is awesome, and definitely helps keep me motivated and going forward with my own. So,
And we
yeah.
will be dropping the links to these in the
Oh yeah.
comments for this later. I can't show you those or put them into the public chat right now because I don't have that access. Um, but we will come back to this, and they will be in there in the comments for you, as well as Sasha's TikTok and so on, so that you can actually go through and look at these. And I have to say, I mean, I watch them as soon as they come across my feed, which isn't necessarily every day, but I've, every now and then I have to catch up on yesterday's one and those sorts of things.
Mhm.
But they're, I quite like to just stop it as soon as I've seen the prompt and think, what would I do? And that in itself is such a service to the game design community just to have
Mhm.
that and then show, well, this is what I did.
Mhm.
And you now have 24 new potential games,
Yeah.
and you will have however many days there are in January games. What are you going to
31.
do after that? How's that going to feel?
Um, oh,
Amazing.
I've definitely been thinking about it. I have definitely been surprised. I don't know if I should be totally surprised, because I feel like every time that I do a game jam, by the end of the game jam, I end up like liking the game more than I expect that I would like it. But I do feel like a good number of these games are games that I actively want to come back to and sort of develop. I've thought about sort of having an extended challenge type of thing where I like, instead of doing daily videos, I do like a weekly video where I sort of come back to one of the daily videos that I did in January, or something along those lines. I haven't
It's very
totally
interesting
decided yet.
content as well.
Yeah, I
Like
think
people will want to follow that.
I I do really love get like one of the things that gets me most motivated to make things and sort of push forward with my creative projects is sharing what I'm passionate about in a way that gets other people passionate about it. And so that's sort of where my desire to make these videos comes from, is getting other people excited about making games and
And it's
doing
what
game
pushes
design
you
stuff.
through that challenge of actually making the video, right? Because 'Cause you're like, "Yes,
Yeah.
people are gonna enjoy this once I get it out there, and then I'll get the,
Ye-
like, it'll make
yeah.
me feel better because I'll get that." So,
Yeah. No, it definitely. I mean, for this January challenge, I feel like I would do it if I had a positive um, uh, response or not. Um, but I would be a lot more likely to just not do one ever again if I didn't get any positive response. So the positive
that's
response that I
fair
have
though.
gotten has really helped me. Uh, I don't know. Has really inspired me to like sort of think about different ways that I could sort of do this and sort of get more. Um, I don't know, different formats of videos and stuff that would be helpful. I've gotten several comments on TikTok from people that aren't game designers at all and just like
This is fun to
curious about
watch.
it.
Yeah,
And so making some things to ease people into it even more than the game jam videos is something that I've thought about as well. But yeah, it's something that it's not like that's what I'm all about. That's what I am now. But it is something that I have been getting a lot of enjoyment from doing these challenges. And even though I don't think I can continue doing daily
Please
challenges and
don't try and do
videos
it every
uh,
day. It'll burn you
beyond
out.
January,
Yeah.
I definitely want to continue it in some form uh, at a more reasonable pace.
I think that's a good idea. And Amy's just asking, what's your TikTok handle? Can you tell us what
Oh
that
yeah,
is, Misha?
my TikTok handle is just my name, Sasha Jelten. So at Sasha Jelten, SASHAJELTEN.
I'm going to
Um,
hold that up on a piece of paper. So
okay,
I'm just
perfect.
going to swap the camera across again because I don't like it this way because I can never figure out what I'm doing. But that is the
Nice,
handle there for everyone. And then we're going to go back to normal camera. Yay.
nice.
um, yes, so do go and follow Sasha for that. There is also a Playtest PDX Instagram. Is there a Playtest PDX TikTok?
There is not at the moment. There is a Playtest PDX Instagram and a Playtest PDX. So yeah, Discord, Instagram, and Facebook group are the three platforms that I'm doing like
Do you
posting
want
on and
Blue
stuff.
Sky? I have Blue Sky invites if you want a Blue Sky for it.
I'm not opposed to it, but I also want to have it be platforms that I know that I will
Use.
actively use and maintain.
I hear you.
Um,
There are
uh,
so many. As I
yeah,
was saying earlier, it's like
I, I, at the moment, 3, it sort of feels like my luckily, I have other people that help me out, like, Kat is awesome for helping me manage the Facebook group, and then Tristan is awesome for helping me manage the Discord. The
ah,
Instagram, I've
cool.
mainly been, doing myself, but, it's n relatively simple to manage. So but
Well,
it's been great
particularly if
having.
you're just posting the reels across from TikTok to Instagram,
Yeah.
that's not terribly challenging.
Yeah, I also like to put together basic sort of stories to tell people about events coming up, but that
Yep.
is something that is not that hard to do.
I
Um,
mean, all of these things in themselves aren't that hard to do, but one of the things that you're doing, and I think that that's why this is successful, is that you're doing all of them. And you're pushing that information out there and you're making it available to people, and so people are starting to see Playtest PDX as a place to go, as something that's happening in Portland. And so if because I see that we're coming around towards the end of the show now, what I'd like to do is sort of, we've talked about the things you've done, we've talked about how you got there. If you were going to tell another game designer or group of game designers who are interested in setting up a playtesting forum of some sort around them, so in-person playtesting in
mhm.
particular, what sorts of things have you learnt from this that you would want to pass on to help people sort of skip those stages if they can and get right into the meat of it? Like what's the cool stuff and how do you get that across to people?
Um, I
Are
I
you
would
there?
say,
Do you feel like you've learnt enough
yeah,
yet?
I feel like, the biggest sort of lessons for sort of developing and creating a community, which I guess is at the core of what the question
Yes,
is.
that's basically what you, yeah.
Um, I think finding a good space, I think, is important. I definitely sort of lucked into having a good space with Evan's Cafe, but developing just like a good relationship with either whether it's like a bar, a restaurant, or a game store, ideally, but not everyone has good game stores around. But if you have a good local game store, definitely developing a relationship with uh, the a venue owner that has tables that allows a space for you to sort of invite people to sort of play games. Um,
Just
then
a little plug to say thank you to Evan there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. Evan is his space is fantastic. But yeah, getting a good space that you can have a sort of consistent event. Obviously, you can host it at a house as well. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I think it is more approachable to people if it is in a sort of public space that feels
Safe and
safe
professional and
and
has
inviting,
parking and
and
yeah.
also like it doesn't hurt to have options for drinks or other things. But I think having something that is consistent, that feels approachable and safe, is a really important thing for creating a good sort of. I think also helps with sort of diversity of the people that will show up.
And
So
it takes the pressure off a host as well, because
yeah.
it's a cafe or it's a board game store or something like that. It's somewhere that's designed to have the public there.
Hmm.
Whereas in your home, that's not necessarily somewhere that, I mean, unless you do have a home that's set up that way, or you have a
Hmm.
space that where you regularly have people coming in, like if like Sasha, you regularly host game nights, maybe you're comfortable with people regularly coming around for other things. But for
Yeah.
most of us, it's a little uncomfortable to go to someone's house when you don't know them, and it's a little uncomfortable to have people you don't know coming into your home.
Hmm.
So finding a good space is a good starting point. And what else do you think would be something that people should bear in mind when they're thinking about organizing an event like this? You've talked about having a regular event. How do you
Hmm.
make that accessible to yourself? How do you keep yourself on top of that?
Um, uh, uh, I mean, there. Uh, keeping myself on top of it, I
Yeah,
guess.
how do you make space for yourself to do something regularly like that?
Um, hmm.
Or
That
is
that
that
is
just easy for you?
that is an interesting question, because it's not something that I feel like I actively think about too much, because I've been so sort of comfortable hosting like game nights and stuff, that I definitely think that having using tools like Facebook events or something as sort of reminders that things are coming up, or a sort of place that I can like lock something in, or feel like I'm locking it in, that certainly helps with organizing it, or feeling like it's something that's actually going to happen, and that occasionally I'll get reminders that it's going to be happening, or it'll show up somewhere that will remind me that it's happening. I think that sort of thing is helpful for me. Um,
How
but
about Discord? Like, I
Mhm.
as you know, I'm not a fan of Discord,
Mhm.
because, I'm just not comfortable there, it's fine. But I know that a lot of communities use Discord, for this sort of thing. How do you build your community on Discord?
Um, well, so the way that I've grown the community on Discord is honestly that they're well, the Stumptown Game Crafters has a Discord, and sort of communicating with their Discord a little bit. Um, I also, on each of the different social medias, Discord, Instagram, and Facebook, when I was sort of initially creating them, I made an effort to really be sort of cross promoting each of those different social medias with each other, because
Yep.
everyone sort of has their own preference, their own one that they use more. And so if they find out about something on a platform that they don't necessarily use a lot, uh, if they're shown a platform that has that same sort of community, but on a platform that they're more comfortable with, then I think that makes it easier for them. And so, yeah, I think that's a big one, is making sure that they're connected, and not
Mm.
feeling like uh, this is just this one space. So you better have this social media, otherwise you can't get anything out of this community. Um, the
That's
other
a
thing.
really good point, actually. I've noticed with the rise of the Discord community style,
Mhm.
there's very much like, "Oh, it's all on the Discord and you have to go to the Discord."
Mhm.
And I haven't really seen that happen previously. Like, people will say, "Oh, it's on Facebook, but it's also on the website and also on the," but
Mhm.
now it's very much, it's just on the Discord, you have to go to the Discord.
Mhm.
And for me, that feel when it's something that you have to be invited to,
Mhm.
like a Discord, server,
Mhm.
or a private group, or all of those sorts of things, I feel like it can really kill that sense of community sometimes. So how do you work around that side of it? Is it just, do you think, making lots of, like, extra options,
Um, i-
like
i-
other
in,
ways for people to join in?
um, I sorry, I got slightly distracted while you were asking that question.
That's all right.
Um,
So I guess when we're thinking about all of the different ways that we can communicate with people,
mhm.
it's really important, as you were saying, to make sure that there are ways that those different communities are interconnected
Hmm.
and that people don't feel forced into only going to one particular
Hmm.
online group.
Yeah, yeah.
And in terms of making it accessible to people to attend in person,
Hmm.
it makes sure that it's a safe location, that it feels public enough, but
Hmm.
not so public that it's dangerous. Um, are there other things along those lines that you think are important for people to consider?
Um, yeah. Oh, this was actually one that I guess I wanted to mention earlier that I sort of missed, or I didn't. It wasn't in the front of my head initially. It's something that I've learned to be more cognizant of. Is not everyone that is uh, interested in interacting with a playtest group is a designer.
Yeah,
And that's something
it's a good
that
point.
I definitely I get so sucked into this sort of concept of you just need to start game designing. Everyone should be a game designer. That I will sometimes find myself just expecting anyone that is playtesting games to be thinking like a game designer or wanting to design games. But what I found is there's a lot of people that are just like love games and really enjoy seeing sort of games develop and stuff, but don't necessarily have their own strong desire to create their own games. But they enjoy being a part of this process of sort of playtesting and everything. So giving sort of avenues and specifically being able to speak to those people when you're posting about things, or not discluding them, or not making sure to include them in the way
Yes,
that you're speaking about events, and the way that you're sort of like, if you're all your posts are saying bring a
designers,
game
come for
design,
this.
or
Yes,
uh, make sure to bring a game design, that just saying things like that will uh, gradually, I think, have this sort of effect of pushing non-designers away. And
it's very, very good
non-designers
point.
are really important element of playtesting.
Yes, we
And
love you. Please, please
yes,
keep coming.
yes, and honestly, I just having more people in general is fantastic. So don't
Yes,
push anyone away if possible. But that's
that's
something that I
so important.
specifically uh, have gradually, hopefully, been getting better about, because it's something that I recognized. We have some great just play testers in our group.
I think one of the things that I really learned from Unpub was, because I attended my first Unpub, hat, in fact, this BGG that I happen to be wearing right now. And so that's only like 5 minutes ago in terms of like how long I've actually been playtesting.
Hmm.
Um, and almost immediately, I had people who were not game designers and who had never playtested a game before sit down to play my game. And I very quickly I learned, to say, "Hey, so what level of experience do you have with games? Like, what kinds of games do you like to play? Are you a game designer too?" And then make sure that I thank them regardless,
Hmm.
but particularly if they're not game designers and if they've never playtested a game before, and make sure that their experience of playtesting is like, wow, this was cool and I got listened to, and
Hmm.
people explained what they were doing with my feedback, and when they were taking notes and what they were taking notes about and all those sorts of things. So for the people involved in it as well, I think it's really important to remember that. Um, and look, we're just about at time now. So I think we've done really well, actually, given we had no little title cards to hold up and things like that. Sasha, normally what we do at this point is we talk about where we can be found on social media
Hmm.
and our Patreon and things like that. Now, I can't hold those cards up, but I can say that Sen, who is with us in the comments but not actually able to be heard or seen, can be found at Sen Fung Lim on Twitter and Blue Sky. I can be found at Drea Inc. on all the things. And Sasha, where can we find you?
Oh,
Oh, look at
uh,
that.
uh, oh, yep. You can find me at Sasha
Yes.
Jelten on TikTok. That's I'm still new to TikTok, but all of my daily game jams are on there. So if you're interested in following along with those, or just seeing them, that's where you can find that. On Facebook, I'm Sasha Jelten. I'm the only Sasha Jelten, so basically, you can just search for my name, and you should be able to find me. I haven't come across anyone that is trying to stealing my identity, but doesn't mean it won't happen.
I
But
mean,
for
you've just
now,
asked for it now, really.
exactly,
You
exactly.
know, it's
No
this
one
is
in the
what's gonna
chat steal my
happen.
identity, please.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, so we are now at final advice. So, if you were going to give a final piece of advice of any sort about any topic, Sasha, um, what would it be?
um,
Just to our listening public.
my favorite piece of advice that I use for myself is actually a quote from a movie, and I don't actually, I don't think I'm going to say what movie it's from,
Just give us
but
the quote.
it's uh, "Be the flame, not the moth." This concept of being passionate about things will draw people to you, and rather than just trying to go to where cool things are happening, like sort of creating cool things, and people will sort of be drawn to that. Yeah, that'd be my advice.
Sounds like be the flame.
Yes, be the flame.
I feel like that's from a boxing movie. Um,
It's not. It's yeah.
I know, but it
If you
feels like
Google it,
it
you could find it,
should
but
be from a
it's
boxing
yeah.
movie.
I could see that.
Um, yes, and next week, what we have coming up is an interview with the fabulous Marcus Ross.
Cool.
So I will tell you more about that on the day, because we don't have any cards to hold up to tell you about that either. This is great fun. Look, Sasha, thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking
Thanks for
forward to
having me.
SashaCon, where we're going to get to play all of these, what is it, 31 new games potentially, and just help you decide which, and I'm going to say all 31, should be developed.
Yeah,
There are 31 months this year. I'm sure you can do
yeah,
31 by the
yeah.
end of the year.
Easy.
That's how years work.
Mhm.
So I think that's everything that we have to cover, folks. Thank you so much for bearing with us through our technical joys. And Sasha, it's been really great having you on. Everyone,
Thanks
if
for
you're
having me.
looking to join in with Playtest PDX, we would love to have you. Our next event is
This Friday,
this
uh,
Friday.
the 27th, I want to say. I
Yeah,
can't remember what day Friday is, but it's this Friday. So if you're in the
yes.
Portland area, come check it
Come play
out.
games. You do
Yeah,
not need to be a designer. I would love to
correct.
see you come
Yes.
play. And thank you so much, everyone. That's us over and out. Bye bye.
Bye.